November 2020, when I was terminated for refusing to wear a face mask at the small medical clinic where I began working in 2013. My termination occurred despite several medical studies, including one from Denmark in the fall of 2020, which concluded face masks give no significant protection against the COVID-19 virus. My employer stated that whether or not face masks were effective in preventing COVID-19 transmission didn't matter, that I had to wear a face mask according to the health region of Uppsala's rules, otherwise my employer would lose his regional economic support for a small clinic. In other words, already in 2020, the Swedish Health Authority, FHM, Folkhälsomyndigheten, was economically forcing all clinics, hospitals, doctors, and ward support personnel to follow the official state COVID-19 epidemic guidelines. Not adhering to the medically unbased rules and regulations resulted in employment termination for ward personnel and economic penalties for regional clinics and hospitals. Despite the narrative coercion by the state authorities, there was a good deal of resistance from the general public in Sweden, and initially even some politicians, so that the country of Sweden remained relatively free from lockdowns compared to other Western countries. The lack of lockdowns and mandatory testing resulted in Sweden in 2020 having a relatively very low number of COVID-19 cases and no increase in the number of COVID-19 deaths compared to the other extensively locked down and highly COVID tested countries. I note that during 2020, pre-vaccinations, that regular flu cases dropped to near zero in Sweden and around the world. And there was no statistical increase in the total number of deaths in Sweden compared to the previous 10-year average. This is important. So while COVID's happening and they're telling us there's a pandemic, there's no increase in total deaths during the whole year of 2020. And the regular flu cases went to almost zero. They're up here year after year after year after year. And then in 2020, they all went down to almost zero. At the same time, we had a whole bunch of COVID cases. In 2021, so-called COVID-19 vaccines by Pfizer, AstraZeneca, etc., were introduced in Sweden. After only approximately 6 months of testing, a normal vaccine takes about 10 years of testing before it's approved. That's to make sure there aren't long-term side effects that come after 2 or 3 years. How can it be possible that all these companies, Pfizer, AstraZeneca, Moderna, Xenovac, Sputnik 5, how could they all have a COVID-19 vaccine in 6 months when basically the average time is 10 years? So I ask you, are these vaccines? That's a rhetorical question. So, parallel to the COVID-19 vaccine implementation, there occurred a media propaganda blitz to spread fear among the Swedish people and advocating the only treatment possible was mass vaccinations. If you go back to 2020, we were told nonstop, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, that there was this horrible pandemic that was going to kill us all, and the only solution was to get these vaccines. This was already in the middle. It was in the fall, even before they issued them. At the same time as the Swedish state and media narrative was pushed to justify mass vaccinations, the medical authority, LV, Läkemedelsverket, made it difficult, often impossible, for Swedish doctors to prescribe safe and effective medicines for their patients with COVID-like symptoms, such as hydroxychloroquine, ivermectin, acetylcysteine, etc. In the fall of 2021, many medical studies from around the world began to show that the COVID-19 mRNA DNA vaccines were neither safe nor effective. The incoming medical data about the ineffective and dangerous, especially to pregnant women, COVID-19 vaccines was completely ignored by all Swedish state authorities and media. Think about this. There's coming in 1,000 studies showing that it doesn't work and it's dangerous. And the media in Sweden and the state authorities, including the health authorities, didn't say one word. The false narrative of a dangerous COVID-19 viral epidemic, which can only be treated by COVID-19 vaccination, continues to the present in Sweden. The unmedically based vaccine treatment continues to be implemented in Sweden, despite the fact of a 99.7% survival rate of all, and further that 90% of all new COVID cases that require hospitalization are experienced in fully vaccinated, often boosted patients. As a little piece of information, about 80%, I learned this today from Lars, about 80% of Swedes over the age of 12 are vaccinated. It is now clear from a medical perspective that Swedish mass vaccination, vaccine passports, and vaccine-coupled QR codes have never been about improving public health, but rather about drastically increasing the state control over all citizens in every part of their lives. Reflecting on the ongoing control measures being implemented in Sweden, none of them being medically based. 1, Sweden is joining the WHO, World Health Organization Pandemic Treaty, which will supersede Sweden's right to decide health measures as an independent sovereign nation. This is major. There's 5 of these. 2, the Swedish law on terrorism is apparently being amended to include anti-vaxxers, which will permit the incarceration, quarantine if you will, of any citizen actively opposing COVID-19 vaccination narrative. That means me. Once this terrorist law gets into effect, if they catch me at a conference like this, they can arrest me. It will be the law. 3, on the 1st of January, just to know this, some of these are already in effect. On the 1st of January, 2022, the Swedish government founded a vaccination disinformation board with the power and authority to reprogram citizens who do not believe the false COVID-19 narrative and or believe the mass vaccinations are being dictated by globalist central bankers via the WEF and the UN to the democratically elected Swedish government officials for implementation upon the people. 4, Sweden seems to be planning to implement a vaccine-coupled QR code society connected to China-like social credits. We heard Jacob Nording talking about this. In the next few months or years, a vaccine-coupled QR code will likely be required to do anything in Swedish society, including buying food. I fully expect in the next 2 months to 2 years that I will not be able to go to ICA and buy bread or milk. Since I don't have a vaccination, I will not have a proper QR code. I will not be able to buy food. Så, nu ska vi se här. 5, this is the last one. The Swedish Corona Investigation Commission recommends changing the constitution so that the state, faced with a new pandemic, can legally mandate testing, masks, lockdowns, and vaccinations. In other words, the present Swedish ground law stating that no citizen can be forced to accept any medical treatment without their informed voluntary consent will cease to exist. We are at the precipice, and I hope this conference gives some people some ideas.
Thank you for that presentation, Glenn. And next up for the summary of the Danish perspective on the world stage is none other than the organizer of this event, Mr. Mads Palsvig, whom we've already introduced. So a warm applause. And I suppose we'll go sit. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you, Alexander. Thank you, everybody. And while I'm at it, I want to thank all the sponsors who have been sponsoring the goodie bags for the guests and the staff and all of us. So that is very much appreciated. And I want to talk about the Danish situation because it has been slightly different. And we are very fortunate in Denmark, very often get especially good treatments. I don't know why exactly. But So it all started with 2 weeks to flatten the curve lie. Remember that, 2 weeks? Yeah, it turned into 2 years, and just the nightmare just got worse and worse. I think there's something very important to remind ourselves is the law on epidemics. So I have a law degree, so I read not only the law, but I also read all the, what's it called in English, the remarks behind it, about a few hundred pages that the people working in the Ministry of Justice wrote down. And they actually kind of showed how life is going to be if they get their will, which they won't. Ha! Because we will stop them, bastards. So basically, what they did was they were stupid enough to write in the law on epidemic that they wanted to have Denmark divided into, as I remember it, doesn't matter, 10 regions. In those 10 regions, they would put about 20 people in each. Only 6 or 7 of them had any health background. That would be a nurse, that would be a doctor, and the like. I think even a dentist and a veterinarian. I mean, crazy stuff. But the vast majority were members from unions, the local, something, a policeman or whatever. No clue about anything, epidemics, viruses, anything. And then they wanted to give each of these 20 people full authority on a suspicion of someone being contagious without any symptoms with COVID to be forced vaccinated. So that means you have an enemy or a neighbor you don't like or whatever, you know. I mean, it could be anything. And then you read down, okay, so at least it must be Danish police who would go there or Danish military. No. It could be privately owned security firms like Blackwater, Academy, G4S. Now, okay, at least their employees must be able to speak Danish. No, they were stupid enough even to show that the law they wanted to have through were they would be allowed on a suspicion that someone is sick. You could send foreign mercenaries to your house and force inject you with a poisonous substance. And then we got the idea to start the pots and pans. That started in Argentina, where the junta killed 30,000 young people, and the mothers. There's nothing like a mother who have lost their sons or daughters. They literally went to the Ministry of Justice and the Parliament, and they stood there with pots and pans, and they threw tomatoes after the politicians and the lawyers and the judges, as they deserved, the bastards. Yeah. So these are real demonstrators, angry mothers. And then in Iceland in 2008, when Iceland nearly were bankrupted by the banksters, if they had a few votes the wrong way, they would have taken up all the losses of the international bankers. In the end, they managed to just have a small victory, so they did not take up all the losses of the banks, and they even jailed 3 bankers. But this was again the Icelandic people. They took up this with the pots and pans. It worked in Denmark as well. We surrounded the Danish Folketing. We went with pots and pans. Even a member of my party had a very good builder. We have a lot of builders in my party. Not so many academics, but you're all welcome if there are someone out there brave enough. But the builders are brave people, so we had one, and they literally made a guillotine and put it up in front of the parliament. And what they don't know is that we have a lot of friends working inside the parliament, and they told us everything they were talking about, and we knew everything was going on, how shit scared they were, really, which was fun because we are peaceful people, ish. And we were standing there with and I remember talking to the head of police and you know, just facing off when we first came there, it was basically, is he going now to arrest all of us, or is he going to allow us our constitutional right to demonstrate or not? In the end, you know, I just explained to him face to face, 20 centimeters from his face, that this is the situation. You're going to be unemployed. And they're going to go from house to house. And I just said to them, and if you are coming, you need more than that bulletproof vest when you're coming to my house. And, you know, I respect the Danish police. Since then, I must admit, they've been treating me very, very friendly. And they have not had any police agents on my demonstrations. They haven't had all the others that go around. You see the same guy. They have the same shoes on, the same thing. And then they go and they throw some fireworks after the demonstrators. Then they throw it after the police. And then you see all these infiltrated police agents. We don't have them at our demonstrations so far. And they always come up and I talk to them a long time because actually I think that the majority of people are really, really good. And the majority of people, they don't want to live in a society based on fear that someone is having a suspicions that you are going to be contagious and you should be forced injected with a poison you don't know. Now we know Pfizer, only 1,291 side effects. Have a cocktail. Something for you? Not for me. So that is what I want to say, that when that came out, I think they spilled the beans. I think they made a mistake by showing what they really want to do. And this is what they want to do if they succeed, and they won't, but if they succeed to put in the WHO above our constitution, this is what they want. They want a regime of terror where everybody is afraid. So that's very important. And then they had to make another law on epidemics. So we have the constitution up here, then you have the law, and then you have like these executive orders. That's the lowest form of a law. So what they did was they made the law on epidemics, so it's a real law, which was actually quite good. If you read it, the one they made, I think is fine. But then they made all the executive orders below it, so that they kind of almost got the bad law on epidemics introduced anyway. So next year, so last winter, in the autumn of 2021, they then reintroduced, the second round of lockdown. You all remember, or trying to forget. I know you're trying to forget it, but you all remember. I know you remember it. And then in those executive orders, announcements it's called, they wrote roughly the same, that you could do this stuff if the COVID was categorized as a critical to society disease, which normally would be plague and Ebola. But now they said that this disease that is less deadly than the flu was a critical to society disease. We were thinking long and hard what to do, but just to give you an example of actions, I don't know whether this was why they stopped it, but you may recall Denmark was the first country in Europe, I believe, that stopped the lockdowns. And that happened 5 days after we sent notice of a liability to the 20 people in the Commission of Epidemics. So we sent to their private address, just as a friendly, loving gesture, yeah? So they got a notice of liability that they are personally responsible and liable for all damages to people's health from this categorization, And then 30 pages of documentation, which most of them probably didn't even know about if they only follow the fake mainstream media. Then they changed the following day, they changed the definition of COVID from a critical to society disease to a not so critical. And that forced the hand of our Prime Minister. So the following Monday, she, overnight, stopped all restrictions. She had to. So we took them on the wrong foot, and I just want to say, thank you. It works. It does work, and I think it's giving the good people within the system an excuse to do the right thing. If we all concentrate on making money and growing our own vegetables, which is nothing wrong with that, but we need to also, please, let's give the people within the system an excuse to do the right thing. So we have to be more, we have to believe in that they want to do the right thing. So that sums up what we did in Denmark, and I think we're so damn fortunate in Denmark, always being treated well. I don't know why we are so fortunate, but we are. And I will now leave the stage for the Norwegian next one. Justina will say something. Thank you.
Thank you, Mathias. So we had Sweden, And we had Denmark. It's like Eurovision a little bit. We had Sweden, we had Denmark, and now we got Norway. And we've got one of my wonderful friends, Dr. Heiko Santelman. So please, Heiko, come and join us while he's making this wonderful walk to the Eurovision stage. I'll just say that Heiko is a doctor from Germany. He's a GP. He works and lives in Norway. And he is a member of World Doctors Alliance, World Freedom Alliance, and ISOFIA, which is a solidarity international. It's an organization of solidarity and information, freedom, and arts.
Thank you very much, Christina. And thank you very much, the organizers, to give me the honor to speak here to you. Just a second. Yeah, I'm a German. Red, right? No, it's good. Okay. Yeah, I'm a German, as Justina said, family doctor, specialized in natural medicine, working in Norway since 1981. This picture has been taken in Tromsø, the Paris of the North. First of all, you have to understand that Norwegian politicians and the royals are deep involved in WHO, World Economic Forum, the FN and NATO, that in 1972 and 94 we had 2 polls resulting in a very clear no to joining the EU, but our previous Prime Minister, Dr. Gro Harlem Brundtland, conspiring with our present Prime Minister Støre, already had signed in Norway before that poll. But in order to fool us, it was called European Economic Area, or EØS. So most Norwegians are not aware of that we are a member of the EU. We still pay millions to the EU every year and are best in class to implement their rules and decrees, like allowing more poisons in foods and approving vaccines. Here you see our previous Minister Erna, beside of Angela or Tedros. Sorry, the clicker. I need another hand. Here. The 8 crosses here mark the Norwegian young global leaders of Schwab. You might recognize Jens Stoltenberg, the head of the NATO, up there. And here our prince and princess. They paid billions to Gates and earned leading positions in the WHO, WEF, NATO, CEPI and Gavi. Brundtland, while General Director of the WHO, was chairwoman of the Global Preparedness Monitor Board with Fauci in 2019. We see her up there, right? You know this guy? Mass murder? To prepare this pandemic in our parliament, the majority of the members are friends of the globalists. And for years, they have been preparing the situation we have today by selling energy to foreign corporations, transforming grain silos to student homes. Now we have food for max 3 months and skyrocketing prices for oil and electricity made in Norway. Have to do this as well? Now you got it? Okay. Everybody loves the nature in Norway, I guess. But you won't hear about the many cases Norway's Children Protection Service lost at the European Court of the Human Rights in Strasbourg. Weekly, families are leaving Norway to protect their children. that the Norwegian CDC, Folkehelseinstitute, was founded and funded by the Rockefeller Institute, that for years psychiatrists had been performing CIA experiments, that whistleblowers were and still are locked up in psychiatric wards. You don't know, I think. While mentioning the founder of our CDC, another interesting finding is that these artificial spikes are not that dangerous for the fake Ashkenazi Jews like the Rockefellers and the Rothschilds. The Norwegian globalists are looking forward to destroy Norway and build smart cities. Many communes already have all the plans ready. Norway already started to implement the bank ID, which is a form of a digital ID. And you won't get far in Norway without it. Without a bank ID, it becomes very difficult to get banking service, online purchases, booking a doctor's appointment, and more. I don't know if you know this Norwegian invention, which is called Sov i ro. It helps against all the variants. Yeah. Our health institutions are advised not to report side effects. Informed consent before the jabbing is not necessary. My attempts to stop these bioweapons with injunctions and trying to steal my Moderna jab for analysis was a waste of time and money. The injunctions were dismissed because it would be too expensive to destroy the shots and because the vaccines are not mandatory. In 2009, Norway had to pay 30 million euros for dealing with the poisoned waste from the swine influenza vaccines that were stopped after they were causing narcolepsia. Reporting the director of our drug administration to the police for manslaughter was one of the reasons the police demanded my psychiatric evaluation. I haven't got the results yet, but cross my fingers. We have pending some cases of sudden quacks deaths where a good lawyer demanded autopsies performed according to Professor Burkhardt, who held the famous press conference on quacks victims in Germany. I guess you know him. And so 2 cases of unvaxxed who were denied organ transplantations. And there are several cases of medical kidnapping after the hospital understood that the patient was not vaccinated. The few autopsies demanded by relatives, they were whitewashed. There were more deaths reported within a few months from these shots than from all vaccines together in 33 years. But at the other countries, they turn a blind eye. In Norway, only in Telegram and Signal, we can discuss that Craig Cooper revealed that a few batches are up to 3,000 times more lethal than others. The blue line on the bottom, that's a normal line. That's from the deaths from influenza shots, but not these spikes here. These are the AstraZeneca and this Johnson & Johnson. And some breaks in between, as we see, and then very many of deaths reported, but that are only the reported ones. After ICanDecide.org won a verdict on the Freedom of Information Act, Pfizer had to release their findings now, not in 75 years as they wanted. These are serious side effects, not a little tired or I have a little itching on my arm. Pfizer got registered the first days before they got a license to test more on us, or these data were released in March 22, 9 pages. If we trust Pfizer's data from April, 3.7% of the jabs died. So in 100 million jabbed only in the US, that means almost 4 million deaths, only from the Pfizer vaccine. But nobody knows for sure. A group of international scientists is assuming more than 1 billion deaths by today, all around the world. And now the Hunger Games start. Since the amount of released data from Pfizer is so enormous, Sasha has created a search tool extractor where you easily can search for a keyword in the released data. Very good job, Sasha. Thank you. Here a snapshot from my attempt to leave a quack center with my jab in my hand instead of my arm. Shortly after, 5 health workers jumped on me, and I lost it. But after people heard about that, they got some for me. So they're beautiful people all around. I have proof that health institutions are advised not to report any side effects. Informed consent before the jabbing is not necessary. No exemptions are accepted. Our drug administration is not publishing the annual reports of medical side effects since 2018 because they have too much to do. Their director, Madsen, is banning hydroxychloroquine and ivermectin and threatening docs who prescribe them. That I saved many lives with these effective and safe medications, that doesn't count. We got lots of decrees in Norway, change of laws, by jumping over the usual democratic processes. When the public was asked to send their opinions about the Vax passport to the government, they got 20,000 mail. But that was not too much to consider for them. The parliament already has decided secretly to join the WHO's International Health Plan in May 25, to let the WHO rule over the national health departments in the next pandemic defined by the WHO. You heard about it. We will hear more about it the next days. A fresh report now revealed that quarantine rules were dictated by the health department despite advices from other departments. And hundreds of EU citizens who were forced into quarantine hotels sued the government. Many scientists and high-ranking docs in Norway who were questioning the bad story and the effect of pandemic measures in articles and debate programs got censored and threatened, also in Norway. After my last attempt to get hold of jabs with lethal batch numbers, together with 15 activists, the National Security Police held a press conference. Warnings from the right-wing extremists and declared us as enemies of the state. The quack centers got more security personnel, but that only made me curious to find out what was so secret with these shots that it was not allowed to take them out. I was not alone. Here are a few examples. The video with the Swedish Dr. Enby disappeared strangely few days after his death, sudden death. But it's still, you can still find it on brand new YouTube. And the small pictures are from something that was built under the microscope from a vial from Moderna. And this is from a video from Nature in 2000 and, I don't remember, 20 I think it was. A nanobot. So I don't know what this is, but it looks strange. Shouldn't it be in a vaccine, I think? And that also, these huge cells, which are constantly producing new cells, look very strange. In Australia, someone was filming the change in blood after treatment with a small frequency gadget I also use. That's very interesting. But it doesn't cure everything, of course. Many in Norway say no to the corona vaccines, and that is a problem. This lawyer here won a trial for a woman who did not obey to the rules about max 5 people in her shop. She won it. There are several projects in planning in Norway, help centers located all over Norway with blood bank, seed bank, stored food and medicine, a library, med beds and personnel which is educated in health, security and teaching. Some examples here of important web pages we have in Norway. Here, police, lawyers and docs unite also in Norway. We got a new association, thanks to Torkel, for doctors and health workers, not sponsored by pharma. And 1/3 of the membership fee goes to help fund for victims of all COVID measures. Norsk Folkehjelp. No. Almost. Now Norway already started to implement the bank ID, which is a form of digital ID. And you won't get far, as I saw that, but maybe we should trade in working hours instead. I like this idea with very much with ourworld.org. And get an alternative to a credit card, maybe. Or maybe you want to travel without restrictions with the Freedom Travel Alliance, or get a date which is not vexed. And here you can find therapists and haircutters and dentists who are not jabbed. Yeah. 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 So in Norway we have many groups working with prepping, free schools, free energy, free natural law and common law. I would like to hear what the finance specialists here think about the gold-backed coin from the common law court. I already got an ID card and will in a few days also order the passport and the car plates from the common law court. After I found that there is no protocol that fits for all my quacks victims, that it's very dependent on which badge they have got, I had a wish. If someone could create a database like howbad.info from Craig, where docs from all around the world can register badge numbers of vax victims, their main symptoms, and which therapy that was most effective. Together with a good search tool, it could save many lives. And my wish was heard. Check this page called truthforhealth.org. Dr. Lee Wirt and Josh made it. A natural immunity works probably for life, while vaccine immunity does not work for more than a couple of months. The fact checkers were spreading denunciations about me in the mainstream media, television and radio papers, but an attempt to sue them, as I got a tip from Rainer Füllmich, just was a waste of money. Do not have time to talk about all these interesting links, which you can find on my blog docheiko.eu, but please visit truthforhealth.org, a beautiful page. The Norwegian CDC did not recommend the jabbing of children under 5 yet, in opposition to Dr. Madsen from the Drug Administration. But there are some really smart kids here. Not only in Norway. And that was a revised version of my 60 minutes talk. Thank you very much.
This one instead, or both? This one is better. Yeah. Okay, good. You can actually stay on stage, and we'd like to welcome up both the Mads Palsvig and Glenn Dormer, whom we've already introduced, and you can, I guess, find your seats, but remain standing for just a minute. And
We've got a couple of more, which we would like to invite to this lovely panel. We've got Max Winter.
Yeah, and with a proper presentation. So Max Winter is one of the initiators of the demonstrations against the COVID lockdown in Sweden. Please welcome on stage. didn't check that. And Nils Littorin, he is the, what do you call the initiator of the Doctor's Appeal, called Läkarupproret in Swedish. Agnieszka Wilson, who is here to present. You're involved with quite a lot of projects, but you're here to speak about the vaccine damaged people.
Humanitarian and a journalist.
Yeah.
Let's get her opinion on these ideas.
And is Torkel here?
I think, yep.
Call him.
Got Dr. I will mispronounce it. You're more Scandinavian than me. Please go for it.
I would like to welcome Torkel Snellingen, who is a medical doctor. Okay, so please join us, and we'll rearrange the chairs. So we'll sit by each end of the table. I could, yeah. And we're short on microphones, as you've noticed. It's quite a shame, but yeah. Is this a good arrangement of the? Oh, thank you. Is this a good arrangement of the seats for you in the audience? Yeah, it's good. Everybody comfortable?
She has a job to do. This is the mic. So
Yes.
not again.
Yes, it definitely doesn't
That's
agree with
great.
the social distancing. So we're going to keep it. Let's make sure. Let's make sure we get closer.
Should you kick it off?
Right. So we've got a Scandinavian highlights panel, and we do want to get your ideas on these solutions. And really, just tell us a little bit more about this. I mean, some of you have already mentioned it, but we've got quite a few new panelists here. About the unique position that you see Scandinavian countries in, that they are at the moment and have been for the last few years.
Thank you, Justina. Yeah, I think there's quite a lot happening right now regarding Scandinavia, and especially the NATO question is very important at the moment. As a freedom activist myself, we see much important right now to highlight this and to rally a lot of people around this question, because if Finland and Sweden joins NATO in a short amount of time, which seems to be happening now in May, it can really be a stepping stone for this global agenda to continue. And I think Russia will be very provoked by this, and it can be a really good reason for them to start a larger scale war than we see right now in Ukraine. So regarding activism, I think getting people on the streets and raising the voices of the crowd is very important to press the politicians. We saw it in February when they dropped all the vaccine passes and the restrictions, because we had a very large demonstration 22nd of January in Stockholm with 15,000 people. So I think we need to get those numbers again, and I think we need to see some more pain in the society before people really start get involved again. So.
We say it is a unique position because I think from the European perspective, even as I look at it, the Scandinavian countries are the ones that actually took all these implementations of technique, using chips and microchips in. So the uniqueness is that you're already quite further than the rest of us in Europe. And then I guess the other question is, in what way is it a challenge? Because you're so ahead and we can look at you, and at the same time, I guess, in what way is it an opportunity?
Thank you, good question. Yeah, I think that we need also to defend and protect the constitutional laws, because that will slow the process down. So at the moment they are attacking the foundational law, the Grundlagen in Sweden, and we're also rallying about that and having big protests and demonstrations in that question. And it looks like they are implementing these steps now to take over completely, and then they will have all these advantages, as you said, with this technology also here in Scandinavia and Sweden. So we need to really raise spotlight and provoke the politicians and the people behind this to see that we are seeing what they're doing, and continue and never stop until we win, as Mats used to say. So yeah, I think that's for me. Thank you.
I'd just like to add that if we're going to do something in the interim to put some brakes on this, is that we need to inform the 80% of, at least in the country of Sweden, not to go along with the QR codes and the vaccine-based passport. I don't know how we get that information, because in the year 2030, Klaus Schwab isn't just planning for the unvaxxed to own nothing, he's planning for everybody to own nothing. So the people that go along, oh, I took the job, so I might as well get a passport because I want to fly around and I want to buy food. If everybody says no to the digital ID, we have a chance.
Mads, I saw you nodding in some kind of approving manner. Would you like to add something to that?
I cannot add so much. I think it's great to obviously state the obvious that everybody should do it. I mean, but to be honest, I mean, the problem is that there are certain people you cannot reach no matter what. You know, I mean, I think it was Juris Bestman who said that if a person is totally broken down, then no matter what kind of evidence you pile on him, he will not listen to it. So I think but the good news is, I think that most of the people know it now. You hear them saying, well, if that is true, I don't want to live in a world like that. Please don't tell me this. But they know it's true. Most of the people, they know it's true. So let's try to go for those people. I think we don't have to try to wake some people up who cannot wake up, but the people who are cautious, lead them into it and try to show them another way, that actually they are taking away your constitution, your human rights, and you're losing out here. You know, you're just giving away your life to some globalists who look down on you, and they have their own lavish lifestyle and consider us useless eaters. So I think we should concentrate on the low-hanging fruit, so to speak, the people who already know it but are a little bit scared. Just show them the bravery, show them the kindness, and actually the opposite of fear is love. So being brave is actually sharing love. So actually sometimes being angry is a good thing. If you are fighting for other people and yourself, and you are angry, there's good reason to be angry here. There are good reasons to be angry. You know, they're poking children up their nose. I cannot understand there's a single father out there who's not angry about that. I cannot understand it at all. So the anger is okay. So be more brave. Sometimes be angry. You know, just say no. It doesn't mean that we have to start a lynch mob or something crazy like that. I'm not talking about that at all. But we need to be sensible, and I think we will get much more support than we can imagine.
So you mean to encourage the people who won't comply? I saw you raising your hand, Nils. Would you like to comment?
No, but yeah. So I'm Nils Littorin from the Doctors' Appeal of Sweden. I'm so happy to be here among friends, and yeah, it's just great to see you all here. I think that Sweden is a very special place in this pandemic. We had a unique situation where we were the only country who didn't lock down, in the Western Hemisphere at least. We were the only country who, during 2020, made some sane decisions, not participating in the mass psychosis of the world. And I'm very critical of our Anders Tegnell, who was the leader of the Swedish Health Board at that time, who got kind of world famous during 2020, also with his predecessor and mentor Johan Giesecke. But they made some very tough, very correct decisions during 2020. I mean, even regardless of all the science, I'm just as a father of 2 children, I cannot thank these people enough for keeping Sweden open, okay? I think that's really, really important to remember. and to show to people, as someone mentioned, as I think Dormer mentioned earlier, that in 2020 we were among the bottom third of the list of highest excess mortality, and in 2021 we were the country who had the least or the second least excess mortality in the whole of Europe. So the Swedish pandemic response was the correct one, who inflicted the least damage to democracy, the least damage to society, and that protected the children, was unable to protect the vulnerable elderly population, as well as in any other country. We had many old people who succumbed to the disease, as well as we have during flu years. So that's a tragedy, but that had nothing to do with the Swedish response as in comparison to other countries. So that was my, and I always say this, even though I'm critical of Tegnell, I would say if I ever meet him, I will thank him personally, you know, for the service he did to me and my family. But I'm very critical of the Swedish Health Board and of Tegnell and Sara Byfors and everyone in charge there right now. I mean, because of the flirt with you know, these dictatorial restrictions, with the couple of months we had COVID passports, but also with the mass vaccination campaign that has gone totally astray, that has gone totally bananas, I think. I mean, as Dr. Robert Malone said on Joe Rogan's show, there are two hills I'm willing to die on, and one is, you know, children's health, and the other one is free speech, and both of them has been immensely damaged during this time. And I mean, there are now even in, you know, I mean, there is a, even though science has been so corrupted during these 2 years, even in the mainstream medical journals, you can now find the evidence of children dying from the vaccine. So, I mean, it's just horribly, horribly gone wrong. Sweden was one of the countries who did not recommend the vaccines for children below the age of 12, at least. But you can find the myocarditis deaths even in the mainstream journals now. So there is no really no excuse for that. And the doctor's appeal, we have. I mean, I'm hearing, you know, my Danish friend over here is very optimistic. I like that. I'm a pessimist. I think I think our opponents are so powerful, and I mean, and even that they are powerful, the general public. There was a opinion poll in Sweden a couple of days ago that showed that 60% of Swedish people don't, let alone, you know, saying no to NATO, but saying no to having a referendum of NATO. 60%, I don't know how accurate that is, but it shows that a lot of people, even a majority, are cowards. They don't take their duty as citizens, as informed citizens, making decisions. It's more comfortable, more relaxing to let those decisions be made by the professionals, the elite, the politicians who, you know, will work everything out, even though they are lying through their nose. So the doctor's appeal, I don't think that we'll win in all of our objectives, but maybe we can slow them down. Maybe we can expose some of the untruths. And, you know, people are talking about, you know, people waking up. I have seen that. I have seen people coming up to me, young doctors even, coming up to me, you know, after my speech in Stockholm, you know, great job, great job. You know, even people who never thought that, you know, that always been thinking, even myself before this pandemic, I thought that the national, you know, the Public Health Board was the number one, you know, that I would rank as number one in telling the truth to the public, being a very, you know, rigorous government body. But a lot of people are waking up, and maybe our government doesn't want what's best for us, you know, with these vaccine passports. A lot of people have woken up. And just on what we are working with right now, currently, I mean, the vaccine passports, they have dropped in Sweden. but we are working now to expose. And we have tried to get this article in our doctor's journal. They rejected it. We are trying with some other papers, but I will tell you now as first-hand information for you. We have seen in the data, we have paid to get the data that should be public information from the Health Board, that in the year 2021, they moved 911 people from the vaccinated deaths, from the vaccinated groups to the unvaccinated. And that's an increase of 32%. And we are trying to get this published right now. I have never been, will never be, a anti-vaxxer or conspiracy theorist. Any of those things I find defamatory and slander that you use to silence debate. But I am a seeker of truth. Thank you.
Would you like to comment on that?
Yeah, hello. Yeah, so I'm from Norway, and since we had a Swedish colleague, I think. Yeah. So I'm a medical doctor as well, and have been working in epidemiology, in global health and eye health, and spent a lot of time in China also. But I think it's very interesting to compare these 4 Nordic countries. And it is a bit scary, actually, to listen to what you're telling from Denmark. What you reported, what's the plans for Denmark? It was really incredible. We know that in Finland it's been very draconian. In Norway, we didn't follow Sweden. But other than that, we haven't really had that much. We never implemented the certificates or the corona passes. But in the notes from our health ministry on the next wave, we will be going into exactly the same thing as Germany. Exactly the same thing. And even we may have a situation where we have problem going to our food shops. And this, of course, the population doesn't know anything about, because it's never ever reported in the mainstream. Now, we in Norway have done something together with our colleagues in Nordic countries. We set up a Nordic COVID declaration together with colleagues here on Littorin, and that was a very interesting project, which I am the editor of. We had dialogue of 8 Zoom meetings last fall of colleagues from all our Nordic countries, except Iceland. And then we published the 9th of December this website and a declaration. And we were amazed, because within 2 weeks we almost had 200,000 hits on this. 200,000 hits. And we have now 120 medical doctors from all the Nordic countries who have signed this. And anyone can go and sign it. And there, if you go look at it, you will see that there's everything from all the disciplines and academics, PhDs, everything. And that's not something that's not going to go away. And they're a little bit nervous of that, because if you have a Professor Dr. Med from the University Hospital of Bergen, who is at the Department of Neurology, who signed saying we must immediately stop this, including what they call vaccines, then the governments looks at it and say, oh my God. And the same in Sweden, all these colleagues. So, I was very happy actually that we were able to do this. Another thing in Norway we have done recently, which was mentioned here by in the last lecture, is that we were from this initiative. We thought, many of us, especially the medical doctors, that it's gone too far, because none of our associations, the Medical Association, the Nurses Association, the Association for Psychologists, their motto and narrative was always vaccine, vaccine. Even, the Psychology Association told their members, you have to remember to talk about vaccine when you have, your consultation. I knew very well the director for, as we call it, fagdirektør, the fagdirektør for the Medical Association, who I had worked with before. And this was when we in Norway, doctors, observed, and it was in the media, that 7 of our brothers and sisters in last year in March, they were all nurses. And they all died within 1 week from the AstraZeneca. And I sat and I said, what is going on? What is going on? And this was at the time that we were then going to have our Corona Pass legislation. That was, of course, an amendment to our smittevernlov, the law on pandemics, whatever you call it in English. And I contacted, the director of the FAG director of the Medical Association, and she called me back, and I asked, what's going on in the Medical Association? Trying to get, is she now worried about what's going on? After, so many nurses died. There was nothing there. And I said, my God. And so this is, when you've been a doctor for 40 years, and you see this, and you say, okay, this has to stop. And then, like many of us, I agreed to be on the video, and I said all this. He said, this was a month back. He said, we have to stop this now. I tell my family, you do not take more. And I have the Hippocratic Oath, I should say that to everyone. And I think, I think we have to be optimistic. Because like you said, the reaction to that was that 100,000 people saw that within 3 weeks. And that is not to say, oh, it's great because you've done that. It's to say that we have to be optimistic that something is happening in our societies because there's too many who are damaged and dying of this they call vaccine. And it's incredible because in our countries and in my country, you can go to the government websites, to Legemiddelverket and to the Norwegian CDC, and you can look at already last year. So last year in March, how many had officially, since they registered COVID, died of COVID under 40? Well, there was 6. 6. So then we go to the other one, the Legemiddelverket, who were reporting very minutely, auspiciously, both the deaths and severe adverse reactions. By that time, there were more who have died of the vaccine than was reported died of COVID associated. And the interesting thing is those 7 nurses, we could say, and it came in the international press, because we have a laboratory in the University of Tromsø, and the hematologist there sent the serum from these who died to confirm in a cell culture that it was actually vaccine related. So that was confirmed. And that is what coined what we called vaccine-induced thrombotic thrombocytopenia. Came from Norway. So we can be proud of, because it came in the news and the hematologist went out and said, this is vaccine. Now, that then says to all of us, this has to stop. It should have been stopped then. And I'll conclude there, but I think that what we in the Nordic countries, we are not a very big population. We have had some great epidemiologists like Anders Tegnell, and we in Norway, even our CDC, was telling the government, we want to do like Sweden. But then everyone said, no, we can't do that. We have to follow Imperial College and Neil Ferguson, right? And the Chinese, who completely now screwed it up. So I think that going forward, and I want to conclude about what is the solution. Are we optimistic or are we pessimistic? I'm very optimistic. Why? Because what's happened in 2 years is that the awareness in our populations has become enormous. I've told people, don't take that booster. A lawyer, he called me back, saying, thank you very much. Thank you. I didn't take it, and now my brother has paralysis. And I know it's a bluff. Now, how many people like that are there out there now? So I think they can never do what they're going to do. And I hope sincerely, as my conclusion, that we will never see a situation that you described from Denmark. That is absolutely horrible, and they will not get away with that. So thank you for my comments.
Thank you. So, okay, I'm going to use it.
It ties into what you're about to say anyway.
Yeah. So tying into the vaccine injuries, this is a huge issue right now. We're seeing thousands and millions of people globally suffering from injuries and deaths. The statistics are, I mean, when you look at the statistics, it's very underreported, we know that, but we started talking to a lot of people that have been through vaccine injuries, and not only are they being totally ignored by, the medical establishment, but they're also, they're going through a lot, I mean, they're totally confused, they're suffering tremendously. We've had interviews with them, and they are also being completely censored. They're not allowed to tell their stories. And the worst part is that not only are they bullied by our community for being idiots to take the shot from the beginning, but they're being bullied and get death threats from people that are, for the vaccines and think that they're murderers. So they're in a very, very tough position, and I think, it's really important to give them their voices. So in Sweden, we actually started, there was a woman called Ann-Katrin, and she was herself vaccine injured, and after being, just pushed away by the system constantly, she decided to take matters into her own hands. So we started a campaign with her, which is called Tala om det, and Tala om det means speak about it. We just had a big demonstration, and we're trying to give the stage to these people to actually be able to tell their stories. But it's not easy, because I interviewed 8 of them globally, and some of them are alone in their countries speaking out, so it's a very sensitive issue. And now this campaign is going to go global. We're going to actually set it up. It's launching on May 25th in Sweden. And we have a lot of global partners on board. We're going to launch it in a TV studio. It's going to be a big social media campaign, because we really just want to bombard social media with the stories and actually have people come forth and start talking about it. And it's going to be, thank you. And it's going to be, it's called Can We Talk About It? And you can find it on canwetalkaboutit.org and join there. It's going to be live streamed globally. And the most important thing for us is to actually help these people. So what we're going to do is we're going to raise funds to actually help with the lawful processes, because certain countries just, have to have certain. I mean, every country looks different. We're gonna fund health solutions, organizations working with health solutions, and we're also going to fund projects that are supporting them. No, I forgot the third one. Health solutions, law, and it's going to come to me. But anyway, so it's all going to be, for these people. And I actually met this amazing woman, Bree, who happened to be half Swedish. And it's amazing because she lives in the US, and she was herself in the AstraZeneca trials. And she's doing a tremendous job helping us. She partnered up with us, and she's my hero, because she's sitting on meetings sometimes, and she's in the hospital with the IVU, and she is still not well after 2 years, of these trials. So it's just inspiring to be able to do this work, and I think, that's one of good solutions to start helping people out there, and many of them are waking up. So it's the next group, I think, to address, actually, and.
Which is the next group? So just to kind of sum it up, we know that people are waking up, and it's great. We see it, but we know that there is an enormous propaganda in saying this is fake news and pushing that what we're saying is not true. And yet we're seeing people waking up anyway, but who's the next group that then now we need to move with all that as a journalist? Because, you see it, you speak to these people, and sometimes still that information doesn't go through to others.
Yeah, I mean, I think, the people that have vaccine injuries right now are the ones waking up. But it's still very sensitive, because, I mean, I've had a hard time working with them in the sense sometimes that, you know, they don't want to be put in the anti-vax box because it's just about the COVID. So I think also with this campaign, we really wanted to be neutral and just like be focused on you know, the COVID-19 vaccine injuries and you know, not go any further because, you know, for them even to join this and tell their story is hard enough. So we kind of have to like, you know, be a little bit diplomatic at times. Thank you.
Are there any other groups that will be the next ones to wake up? Do we have any opinions about that?
Doctors.
Maybe Heiko want to say something?
Go ahead, Max.
Yeah, it's a good question because I think what I have come to conclusion with is that we need to wake up the people. We were talking about solutions here, and I think the only real solution we have is the people in the end. And then in Sweden we have a great history of people's movements. And I think we need to create a people movement and an international worldwide freedom movement eventually as well. And we need to be the majority. But at the moment it's very hard because it's a lot of psychological warfare going on. It's a lot of dividing and conquer as well. So I think it's going to be a tough race, and I think as Mats said, we're going to have to work with the people we have at the moment. The millions here in Scandinavia that understands this, and perhaps create a Nordic alliance as well to connect them all. But until then, we will have a hard time to battle this war against this huge enemy of resources and influence. But I think it's possible. I think the pain eventually will be too much to bear for people, so they have to do something about it. And we will be there to lead them in the right direction when it happens. Thank you.
Could we have a word of response from the pessimistic side of the debate?
Yeah, so someone mentioned doctors would be the next, do you hear me? Would be the next group to wake up, and you know, doctors are no rebels. They are, I think they are the last ones who will protest this. I'm sincere, I think so. I mean, during the 30s, in Sweden, the groups who had the most membership of the Swedish Nazi party were doctors. Because doctors are in a special position. They are privileged through their education and income, and they are somehow aligned with power in a semi-sense, you can say. So it's we shouldn't hope too much that they. I mean, there are a few of us that will speak out about what we see, and I have even gotten calls from all over Sweden, doctors wanting to talk about maybe their kid has gotten some bad reaction from the vaccine, and I'm one of the few doctors who have had spoken out about it. So they have called me. I have had contact with lots of doctors, and as I said, even young doctors coming up to me when they're coming up to me, behind closed doors or whatever to speak about this. And people sometimes ask me what do your colleagues say about your commitment to this, against vaccine passports and freedom, and can you work in the hospital? Yeah, sure. I haven't had one complaint from any colleague, any administrative person or anything. I wish, because I would love to debate them, because science is on my side. I mean, I know the numbers. I can take you on, about, yeah. I've been trying for 1.5 years to have a debate with someone about this. And finally, there was a microbiologist in Gothenburg who got into a debate with me on YouTube. And we had over 100,000 views. It's the only debate, actually, that lasts more than 1 minute about the vaccines in Sweden. So, yeah. But don't have too much hope for doctors.
Well, I know Torkel is working on it very much to get more doctors on our side.
Yeah, I can see it. Yeah, I just want to. I just tell a little bit more what we were doing in Norway, because I think that we're closing up.
Yeah, no.
Sorry, closer, yeah. It's true that doctors are very conservative, and it is very ashamed in this situation that we don't see our colleagues coming forward here. I mean, to put it in the perspective, in 1976, in the mass vaccination in the US, after 45 million doses, there were 25 deaths. Can you imagine? And look now. I don't see why aren't our colleagues reacting. Okay, if they look at the data and they see it, they become, well, it's just too shocking. But from there to actually going out is another issue. Anyways, we had almost 50 Norwegian doctors who signed this declaration. And from that initiative, many of them were attacked. Some weren't attacked. We had a lot of nurses who lost their jobs, like everywhere else. We have all the stories. Some of our best nurses and medical doctors actually, leave. And they started to do informed consent. We have some doctors who said, I have to inform my patients. And what's happened is that we, together with some other colleagues here, said, our medical association is completely ruined now. So let's do something. So we actually registered a new organization, and we've registered a new organization, but we didn't call it a medical association. We have called it a Norwegian Doctors and Health Workers a common forbund, felles forbund, so that we all come together as one. And that one is getting now a lot of members. And we believe that that will be something that we can work with, because now we have an association that is registered legally and that people are now coming to. And some say, I'm fed up with my association, I don't want to be there, so we'll make sure that they can have all the rights. So we have a special agreement with Norwegian Small and Medium Enterprise Organization, because most doctors have their, small foretak, their, company, so that they will get the same privileges as in the medical association. And also they will also have, the insurance that they need for damage insurance, what they call it in English. So I think we have to think like this, and we have to build new organizations now, and that are working, not just a declaration or signing something, because that, okay, you can sign and sign, but we need legal entities that we can work with. So I think that's something we all can work with. Yeah, thank you.
I do believe we have 2 minutes left to go, and I would like to hear your 30 seconds. No. I would like to say like 15 or perhaps 10 seconds each, but we're asking about the what's called in the pamphlet called the special opportunities of the Scandinavian region to provide insights for the rest of the world. And I know it's a big topic, but you could say what comes to mind for each of you. And I'll pass the mic.
I just talked. I already said something, so I don't think I need to. Okay. I think what is good with Scandinavia is that we are a bit transparent. We work closely together, and we have to now work more closely together as countries, because it's obvious that they are not admitting the whole things. So I think we need to work closer. So. Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to continue on that. Collaboration. I think collaboration in general is our strongest weapon right now. So I'm going to leave you with that.
And I think that our institutions that we believed in are corrupt. I think that so many things that we used to believe in are corrupt and don't work as they should. So we need to build parallel structures of power. Parallel media, alternative parties. That's the only way forward, that have no financial ties to the pharmaceutical industry, that have no ties to the old elitist parties. Yeah.
I'm still hoping for more whistleblowers. There are some on the line already and ready to step out. And when we have more cooperations or collaborations and big groups, they will dare more. And there's one group I especially was very surprised over, and that was the judges. Some judges, they make, yesterday I was a witness in a case together with a woman who was arrested together with me from a vax center. And when I then was allowed to speak, I dropped some numbers, and the judge and the actor really got big eyes. And can you tell me once again where I can find that web page? Thank you.
Yeah, I think as well that unity and collaboration in Scandinavia is very important. I got a call before this convention just today with some information that they've been planning this agenda from actually Sweden 50 years ago, and they're kind of wrapping the whole bag now. The whole circle is going to go around this year with this whole plan. And I think there's a special part for Scandinavia in this big plan, and we need to be prepared for it. We need to be strong together. I think it's very important right now. And I think it's not a coincidence we call this Northern Light. The light will come from the north, and we will assemble and gather here and prevail this, and we will win at the end. Thank you very much.
Yeah, Northern Light Convention here. I mean, come on, freedom is something you have to fight for. If all you're thinking about is money and egoism and your own little universe, they will take the freedom away from you. We have to fight for the freedom. And actually, if you look back for the Vikings, very friendly people trading with other neighbors, as you probably know all about, we actually had freedom in the sense that we could meet and discuss disputes, and it was actually settled in a somewhat civilized manner, I suppose, but sometimes with a battle axe. Give me those battle axe days again. Those were the days, right? No, but I'm saying it. I mean, I think it's important that we have to realize that freedom is something you earn. There's something you have to fight for, to keep. And you owe it to your ancestors. You cannot give it away. Your ancestors have been fighting for it. And they've been living decent, honest lives. Most of them got up early in the morning, working hard to give their children a better life than they had. And now we risk losing everything they worked for. So I think we should fight for it. And actually, you know, it's quite fun to fight, actually. Come and join us.
I just want to say that I think truth. So it says in the Bible, the truth will set you free. Yeah. So any time in your week, in your day, when you get a chance, there's somebody that's probably not informed about what the vaccine really means, what it really does, how poison it is to take the 5 minutes and person after person after person tell them the truth.
Thank you. Thank you. We will close with these wonderful words, and thank you to all the panelists and all of you here. I believe the dinner is ready, and we're getting waved at to tell everybody, I think, a few words. Osolia, you want to take the mic?
One question, quickly. So the UK is stopping publishing most of its data on cases and in the vaccinated and unvaccinated and deaths. They've been publishing the best, but Scandinavia probably has the second best. Israel's also been screwing with their data. We, who speak only English, would benefit from you sharing the sources of data for the Scandinavian countries with us so we can continue to track things in our English publications. That would be very helpful.
Thank you. Well, that's the end of the day for today. In terms of the program, thank you very much for the Scandinavians for the very warm and hard welcome. That's very nice to see this segment of the world acting so consistently and so powerful. Tomorrow we are continuing at 9 o'clock, widening the horizon to the global, more to the global situation, starting with the scientists in the morning. Please check the program online. And I just want to say bon appetit to everyone. The dinner is ready. Thank you.
Are you holding up? And do you turn off your TV?